Time now to take a look at some of the day's latest business news and more trouble for Boeing and its 737 MAX planes. Our business editor, Stephen Carroll, joining us on the set to tell us more. Stephen.
Well, Boeing says that it's found debris in the fuel tanks of several 737 MAX planes that were built in the past year but had not yet been delivered to airlines. This is the model that was grounded almost a year ago over safety concerns. Now, the debris was discovered during maintenance on parked planes. Boeing didn't say how many jets were affected, just several. Metal shavings or other objects left in fuel tanks during assembly can increase the risk of short circuits or fires. The head of the 737 MAX program at Boeing told staff in an internal memo that the discovery was absolutely unacceptable. The company spokesman said they've increased inspections of fuel tanks as a result of this, and that the issue wouldn't affect efforts to have regulators certify the plane to return to the skies this summer. Well, shares in Chinese airlines have risen today on reports the government is considering a bailout for the sector. Bloomberg reporting that options being considered include a massive cash injection or merging smaller carriers into larger ones to prevent their collapse. The vast majority of flights in China have been cancelled due to the coronavirus outbreak. Industry research group OAG Aviation Worldwide says the shutdown has reduced the Chinese aviation market to the same size as Portugal's. Well, let's take a look more broadly at how the markets are trading today. Asian shares up in trading today. Investors trying to shake off the latest worries over the coronavirus. Those airlines, of course, seeing gains. That'll impact the listings in Shanghai and Hong Kong. But gains across the board. The Nikkei in Tokyo finishing the day up 0.9%. On the currency markets, the euro hitting a three-year low against the dollar overnight, trading for just under $1.08 now, and 83 pence sterling as well. This move on the weakened euro, partly driven by a rise in the value of the dollar, but also some weaker economic data coming from Europe impacting the value of the currency. Now, shutdowns of Chinese factories because of the coronavirus outbreak is having an impact on companies around the world which rely on suppliers in China. The British car maker Jaguar Land Rover has had to resort to extreme measures to keep working. Luke Shrego explains.
Maker Jaguar Land Rover could be about to see a major slowdown in production as the ongoing coronavirus outbreak in China causes continued stoppages in local manufacture.
We have flown parts in suitcases from China to the UK just to make sure we've got the right parts. We are safe for this week and we are safe for next week, and in the third week we have parts missing.
China's taken extreme measures to deal with the viral outbreak, including locking down millions of its citizens in areas that have been struck. The center of the epidemic is Hubei province, which is a major hub in the manufacture and shipment of vehicle parts. And as factories remain idle, supplies are starting to dry up, an issue that may yet endure, according to Chinese officials who've warned the effects of the outbreak would be greater felt in production throughout February. Jaguar Land Rover, the UK's largest car maker, isn't alone in voicing concerns. Fiat Chrysler said last week it had temporarily halted production at its plant in Serbia, the first car maker in Europe to do so as a result of the coronavirus outbreak.
The Californian utility company PG&E has reported a massive loss of $7.7 billion for last year. This as it continues to settle investigations over its role in sparking wildfires in California. In particular, it was found that improperly maintained power lines played a role in starting major fires in 2017 and 2018. PG&E says the wildfires have cost it almost $25 billion in the past 2 years. It filed for bankruptcy protection last year. The United States has blacklisted a subsidiary of Russian oil giant Rosneft for dealing in Venezuelan oil. The sanctions block any assets of the subsidiary that come through the US and makes it a criminal offence to do business with them. Venezuela's state oil company has slammed the sanctions, saying that Rosneft Trading's activities in Venezuela are legal. The Trump administration has been supporting opposition leader Juan Guaido. US officials said that Rosneft handles more than 2/3 of Venezuela's oil, one of the few resources bringing money to the struggling government there.
I'm sure there will be efforts to get around the sanctions. Already, Rosneft is doing this, for example, by changing the names of ships or ship-to-ship transfers to try to hide the Venezuelan origin of oil. The two largest customers for Venezuelan oil are India and China in that order. We will be having conversations with the customers to advise them of U.S. policy with respect to the export of Venezuelan oil.
Finally, for me, Google's parent company has pulled out of a venture that aimed to build power-generating kites. Makani was one of the so-called moonshot projects that Alphabet was investing in since 2013. But Alphabet's boss, Sundar Pichai, is under pressure to reduce the other bets that lost the company almost $5 billion last year. Makani was developing airborne wind turbines which would fly up to 300 metres above the sea, tethered to floating buoys. In a blog post, the company's founder said they'd press ahead with efforts to develop the technology without Google's backing. Well,
all right. Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen Carroll with a look at some of the day's business news. Let's move on now to Iran.